Hello and welcome to another episode of the Jason Bull Travel Podcast, part of our mini-series on Japan, and today we are looking at episode 5, which is all about the seasons. And yes, we're joined again with Charlie Orr from Inside Japan. And Charlie, what do you think about the seasons in Japan?
Oh wow, it's such a huge topic and it's so important when thinking about Japan. It's a part of it's a part of everyday life, and I think it's there's. I mean, I'm just going to sort of frame this and say that there's no one wrong time to go to Japan. But every time you go to Japan, if you're going in a different season, you're going to most likely have an incredibly different experience. So everything changes with the season, apart from just the temperature and the sights, but also the kind of the way of thinking and the attitude and the presentation of everything. It's such an important element of Japanese culture. So again, there's no one wrong time to go to Japan or one right time to go to Japan, but each will have their own pockets of magic, I would say.
Yeah, awesome. So before we get started, just a reminder to viewers to make sure that you rate the podcast. Obviously follow, like and share, but just drop us a little rate on it if you could. It helps massively with helping other people find this amazing content that we're working so hard to produce for you guys. So yeah, if you could do that would be awesome. How does Japanese culture itself connect with the seasons? Like kind of the festivals, the traditions and the food and those types of things? How's it all changed?
I would say that, it is about that sort of mindset with the seasons, and it's every season will sort of have its own kind of specialisms and attitudes and feelings towards things. The most famous season in Japan is the spring, and that's largely to do with those magical blossoms that you get kind of end of March, early April for the cherry blossoms. But actually, each season kind of resonates with Japan as a whole. And that's really, you sort of find that with, for anybody that might have heard of a haiku, which is a Japanese poem, a very short Japanese poem, and one of the essential elements to include within that haiku, which is usually about 3 lines, is a reference to the season. And that's a really impactful thing. So whether it's a very sort of mention of a cherry blossom falling on a pond, or the wind blowing in the winter through kind of leafless trees, things like that. There's a sort of a sense of there's an emotion that gets added based on that season, and each season, like I say, will have its own charms and its own reasons for going. I mean, the summer is a really good example of that, because that is festival season, and that is the time where people kind of go out into the streets wearing their yukata, their sort of light robes, mingle with their friends and their families, watch fireworks, and then celebrate one of the many, many, many festivals in Japan. But of course, each season will have its own charms, essentially, and that is, you see that across all the board. I mean, you see that from everything from going into a ryokan that we've discussed before and having a kind of a traditional kaiseki meal, which is lots of different plates. But it's the presentation of that when you go to a kaiseki, which will always usually be kind of reference the season as well. So if you're going in the autumn, for example, then you might have momiji, which is Japanese kind of like a maple leaf, like a very sort of famous kind of bright red leaf you see in Japan. But you'll see that kind of decorating the lacquerware that you're being served, and all of the foods will be season appropriate. So you'll have things that are a bit more sort of like stodgy or stewy, or things like that are sort of kind of with vegetables that only grow during that season. So it's so intertwined with day-to-day life that it's it's beautiful. Nothing short of beautiful, really.
So let's stick on cherry blossoms for a while.
Absolutely.
Because it's got to be like the biggest thing on everybody's list, is they always want to go and do the cherry blossoms. And it's no surprise, because it looks absolutely stunning, gorgeous. Doesn't it? It looks absolutely amazing. Gorgeous. Yeah. So kind of what makes it kind of so special, and what's the best way to kind of enjoy it? If you want to absolutely go and do the cherry blossoms, then what's the best way?
So the best way is to maximise your chances of seeing it. So what makes cherry blossom so special is also what makes it very tricky to view, and that's its lifespan, essentially. There is only a brief window in Japan where the cherry blossoms are at their best, and they are flowers. They don't sort of report to attention when we want them to, unfortunately. But the best time to see them is the end of March, the last week of March, and the beginning of April. So it's that very brief window. There's only 2 weeks. And even, unfortunately, even if you plan to go right bang in the middle of those 2 weeks, then if there's a strong wind, then it can knock those blossoms out of the trees. So if you are lucky enough to kind of be in Japan during this time and see the blossoms, it is a really special element. It's a really special moment, just because it is quite tricky to land yourself and see these amazing blossoms at the time. But it is a sign for Japan of kind of rebirth and renewal, sort of seeing everything coming back to life, because Japan does there's lots of kind of evergreen in the Japanese countryside, so it never sort of goes kind of a wintry grey like you might find in the UK, but just the colours are a bit more muted in the countryside. And in the spring, that's the kind of the usual sign where things start coming back to life and the greens start returning and the blossoms are just in full swing. When I used to live in Japan, I did love this season, because it's also a time where it starts to get a little bit warmer and the weather becomes incredibly pleasant. It's not too hot, it's not too cold. You get lots of clear blue days, and of course the blossoms on top of that. And a really special thing to do during this time is to take part in something called the Hanami, which is a cherry blossom viewing party. And this is something that people of all different backgrounds in Japan enjoy, but they usually go to a very famous cherry blossom spot. And there's usually one or two in most cities. A really famous one is around Osaka Castle, where there's lots of blossoms, and people will take their blankets and very typically blue tarpaulin mats and spread them out underneath the blossoms, and then wait until nightfall, and then usually the blossoms will have lights kind of pointed at them, so you get this kind of pink glow. And then people just have drinks, celebrate, have food, have picnics underneath the cherry blossoms at night, and it's delightful. It's such a nice experience. But yeah, I would say it's a very small time of year to enjoy, so that's what makes it so special to see these amazing flowers.
Yeah, we've discussed a lot about over-tourism and those types of things, and
of course,
and it is an insanely busy time of year in those hot spots in Japan, isn't it? So are there better ways of seeing it where you can still see fantastic cherry blossoms but not be so wedged in the middle of millions of people?
Absolutely. I think that's another thing to kind of manage some expectations as well. Japan is a very popular destination, as we all know, and the time where it gets busiest is the time of cherry blossoms. And that's not just visitors to Japan, but that's also the people in Japan as well. They want to go off and see kind of their cherry blossoms in the nicest way. So those kind of choke points, those really popular spots, get even more crowded during those times. So places like Kyoto, for example, or even certain parts of Tokyo do get very, very busy during the spring. Now, we've got some stats to kind of frame this. But there were nearly 50 million visitors to Japan last year. And actually 4 out of 5, so 85% of that huge amount of people, only went to the top 10 destinations. So a real tip, if you're planning to go during cherry blossoms and you'd like to have a really sort of unique experience, or as much of a unique experience as possible, even the smallest towns that have cherry blossoms will get busy during that time, so just bear that in mind. But you won't have as many crowds, I would say, if you kind of go off the beaten path and away from those really popular destinations, places like Osaka, Kyoto, Tokyo, Hiroshima even, but you go kind of more into the Inaka, the countryside, go to those smaller towns. I mean, where I used to live in Shikoku, which is one of the 4 main islands, it's the smaller one, which we might have already looked at, that I lived in the town of Kochi, and that's quite a small city. It's about 200,000, so comparatively small, and that actually has its own castle with cherry blossoms underneath, and that was where I got my favourite memories of seeing the cherry blossoms, because you don't get a huge amount of international visitors, and you have a very authentic time kind of sitting amongst Japanese families and usually businesses as well, lots of business parties around that time, so you get the CEO of companies and all of the various management and all the various members of staff sitting in the appropriate order under these things. But yeah, I'd say you have a more authentic time kind of getting away from those it's really popular cities during that time, just to kind of see the blossoms in as best a way as you can.
Yeah, absolutely. And the best way to be able to incorporate all of that without all the stress is speak to a professional.
Exactly.
And it can help you plan it right into your whole scheme of things of where you want to go, get you out those massive choke points, because what's the point? You're going to go see something when you can't even sit down anywhere and enjoy it and take it in because it's just so busy. There's just no point.
Exactly.
You're not getting experience.
Exactly. I would stress that you don't need to know where those off the beaten path experiences are. You just need to know to ask for it, and that's where Jason is 100% your person to speak to.
If you love to travel, you are going to need a travel agent. And if you want the best travel agent, you are going to need Booley's Travel. Booley's Travel can help you with any kind of holiday wherever you want to go in the world, taking care of every last detail. From package holidays through to fully customized itineraries where you are completely in control of where you go and what you do. And the best part, there are no charges whatsoever. Rated excellent on Trustpilot. Start your next adventure right now by going to booleystravel.com.
Thank you, buddy. Yeah. So, coming away from cherry blossoms, because there's so much more to Japan than just cherry blossoms.
Yes.
There's a whole world of Japan, right? So let's look at summer. And let's talk about the best things of summer for you.
So I personally, I love the summer in Japan. I think it's actually my favourite time of year to go because I've got so many wonderful memories during the summer months. Now, if you do a cursory Google or ask ChatGPT or something like that about best times to go to Japan, then you'll be hit with what we've just talked about. There's the cherry blossoms. That's always going to come up as number one. Second is usually the autumn leaves. But actually, a lot of people get put off because they'll see the summer and then they'll see it's rainy season. And it's very hot and humid. Actually, last summer, or this summer rather, that had just been, it did get to kind of high 30s and the humidity was really strong. So the majority of people will get kind of put off by that and they'll just be like, well, we're just going to have to plan for autumn or spring. But actually, I feel like there's a part that people are missing there, and that's during the summer months, and it does get very sort of magical at that time. So if you don't mind the humidity and you don't mind the heat, then there are so many wonderful things to enjoy during these months. And the rainy season as well, just to kind of land on that a little bit more, is it's not like the rainy season in the UK, which is like a constant drizzle for months on end. It's very much a start-stop in Japan. So during the summer, you do get very sort of clear blue days, very hot days, but very clear blue days, and then suddenly torrential rain. And that can last sometimes just a few minutes, sometimes a few hours, sometimes overnight, but then it usually stops, and then you get the blue days back. So what I generally tend to do when I go to Japan and I'm planning my own trip is to plan going during the summer months, but having a light rain jacket, a good quality umbrella, and then just cracking on, because it is down season in Japan, so you do get fewer crowds. So if you're planning on seeing Kyoto and not joining a huge queue, then Japan during the summer is a really good option. And it also falls in line with school holidays as well. So that might realistically be the only time for families to travel to Japan. But there's so much value in going. And another one reason is the summer in Japan, like I say, is the time of festivals, and it's time to kind of let your hair down a little bit, and there's festivals all across Japan. So if you're really keen to see a Japanese festival, do let Jason know, and then we can look at your dates, and then essentially we can find a festival that would kind of fit within that. I would say to try and, even though it's the down season, to kind of like reach out to us early, because the festivals do get really popular with Japanese people coming into these cities to enjoy them. So it's making sure that you have some accommodation booked, I think, really, and making sure that's secured, especially during those really popular festivals. But it's also a time of fireworks. So usually a lot of these festivals go hand in hand with fireworks in Japan. So in the UK, we obviously have that in November, but in Japan it is fireworks season in the summer months. And some of the fireworks that I've seen, in Japan are outstanding. I haven't seen anything like those really before, outside of kind of like potentially like Disneyland with their endless budgets that they can put towards it. But there was a couple of really cool fireworks that I saw recently, which was a firework that burst into the sky and then kind of made up popular anime characters and video game characters. So there was Pikachu suddenly in the sky from Pokemon. And there was also a character which I don't think many people know in the UK, but it's Anpanman. And please, we'll see if we can try and find a link so people can have a look at this crazy character. Anyway, he's essentially a Japanese anime character that's got a head made of bread, and he's called Breadman, essentially, or Anpanman. And seeing him sort of light up the sky was outstanding. It was such a cool experience. So yeah, the summer is a really magical time, I would say, to travel, despite the rain.
Yeah, sounds awesome. You were just saying there about seasons and the rainy season being. Kind of out of Japan a little bit, but just on a memory that I have. One of my best travel memories was on my honeymoon 20 odd years ago now, out in Maldives. We went, it's on the end of rainy season, and we had an upgrade on the end. We went into like this nice beach villa thing, and hot tub out in the back garden, and we in there one night, and a rainstorm just came, a thunderstorm came, and it was just amazing being sat out in this hot tub with a really nice dark sky, lightning going all around, thunder crashing everywhere, rain absolutely smashing down, and just being nice and warm in this beautiful hot tub. It had like a roof over it as well, like a little outdoor roof thing, and it was just amazing. So I absolutely love rainy seasons whenever we go anywhere. And I love just lying in bed as well, like if it rains and the window's open, just hearing the rain outside. So yeah, I'm not put off by the rain at all. I think it really adds a dimension to the travel experience.
I really think that's true. And I mean, my first time that I went to Japan, which was 20 years ago now, I went during the summer months. So I'll always have that sort of connotation of having the most amazing magical trip that shaped actually so much of my life. Little did I know at that point. But I'll always have that sort of that connection with the summer in Japan. And there's also the sounds of summer as well. So, like you say, it's those kind of the rainfall and the kind of the plinking kind of noise as it hits, which is really, really lovely. But there's also, for me, it's the cicada as well, which is kind of like a cricket sounding insect. Although it's a bit bigger. And if you Google what for many of your listeners will probably know what a cicada is, but I didn't really know what one was. I just thought they were crickets or grasshoppers or something making that sort of chirping noise. But then one flew into my room that I was staying in, and it terrified me because it's just so not what I imagined. But really cool. But essentially, that is the sound of summer. So you do hear cicadas almost deafening in some places, like making their chirps all across, and it's just it's kind of like a really peaceful white noise for me now. So even today, if I have trouble sleeping, then I'll find something that's just cicada noises, just sort of on a loop.
Pull it out the drawer and
exactly.
Put it on the bedside table.
Yes,
flap around everywhere.
exactly. Just to send me off to sleep, and I'm out in no time.
You also mentioned about how hot it is, but what temperatures are we expecting?
So that's a good question. So this summer we were kind of getting around sort of 30s or so mid 30s for most of the days. There were some days that kind of like approached top 30s as well. So it did get very hot in summer. So I think with that and kind of managing your time in Japan is to take air conditioning breaks. I think is really important. So luckily Japan is the country of convenience stores, and convenience stores are incredible in terms of just stopping in and just getting whatever you need, whatever it might be, and sort of filling up on stuff. But they are all sort of like pumping out air conditioning, so it's quite, if you're feeling sort of a little bit fragile just from the heat, just popping into a convenience store even for 5-10 minutes, and also seeing the seasonal goods that they have. So like during the seasons, then you'll see a lot of the kind of the big brand name kind of commodities kind of on sale that are seasonal. So you'll see kind of things like Asahi or one of the like Japanese beers like Kirin Ichiban with kind of like a seasonal decoration, whether that's the autumn leaves or the cherry blossoms kind of on the can, and also very sort of seasonal Kit Kats that you can only get during those times, like cherry blossom flavoured Kit Kats and things. So you can have a bit of a double whammy, so you can see what seasonal goods are available while also taking a bit of an aircon break, because it does, like I said, get very hot during this time. So plenty of breaks and plenty of water. Another big tip as well is, and this sounds a bit gross for people that haven't heard of it before, but there's a very popular drink in Japan called Pokari Sweat. It's got, just going to banish those points, but there is no sweat in Pokari Sweat, but essentially it is full of electrolytes. So actually kind of staying hydrated is really important. Actually getting a bottle of Pokari Sweat is a great way to kind of just top up those electrolytes while you're traveling around.
Yeah, so that's not too hot then. Because obviously humid, but that's not too hot.
It's largely the humidity that makes it feel so much hotter, because you do get sort of like 90% humidity, 100% humidity some days. So it does feel a lot hotter than it actually is compared with, let's say, the Middle East or something like that. But you do sort of like, it is that humidity that kind of like brings it home.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome. Good to know.